This book is called the Southern African Chicken Book because it's applicable not only to South Africa but to all the neighboring countries. The systems of production there are very similar. There were people who are starting initially small scale, but I'd like to stress that it doesn't mean to say they have to stay small scale forever. Some of the huge production farms these days started in a very small way. So people, although they're starting small, that doesn't mean to say they have to always stay small. So it's applicable to those countries, but it's actually applicable to any country in Africa or other underdeveloped countries. And it's really a very useful tool for those small farmers, either for intensive production or the extensive production, and specifically for local trainers to use to train people who might not be literate themselves. It contributes to community development because it creates a part of, maybe a start in some cases of a local economy. And people then sell to their neighbors and to neighboring villages, and or if it's in the rural areas, it could even be people would keep them on the green belts of cities and big towns, and in that way it would create a local economy. More specifically, the extensive production contributes to food security because those chickens are specifically kept by poorer people and they don't cost much money. But if they are taught ways of improving the production without actually needing much money to do that, it contributes enormously because they have this very high quality protein available. But even the intensive production contributes because, as I said, people buy locally, and those people who buy them then have chickens, and even the producers themselves would keep the smaller chickens that they couldn't sell, they would eat themselves and improve their family's nutrition. Yes, it definitely is a stimulus because even if they don't form actual cooperatives, if they can form buying associations to buy inputs together, if there are a number of poultry farmers in a particular area, it certainly would be a stimulus, and we encourage them to do that, and the book actually talks about that. The other thing that's very important is record keeping, and the book deals specifically and gives examples of records that people can use and keep. Record keeping is extremely important because people often, even in bigger producers, don't keep records. Then they don't even know if they're making money or not, and they don't know under what conditions, whether their birds weigh the right amount, if they're eating too little or too much feed. So records are actually essential to any business, but particularly to the chicken business. It's often mainly women, in fact, that are involved, especially with the extensive free-range production. But men are also involved. They help building the buildings, where they do the buildings themselves. But chickens are often women and children's work, and they are mainly involved. I'd like to say a bit about backyard chicken production. The main kind of stimulus to keeping backyard chickens is that people don't even know what a really fresh egg is. You often buy eggs that are, even in the best supermarkets, that are at least a couple of days and might be up to 6-7 days old. A really fresh egg should have a very rounded yolk, and the white should be very firm around it so that it doesn't spread over a pan when you open it. And the only way to really get fresh, like day old, straight from the chicken, is to have your own chickens. In the rural areas, I'm talking about the Southern African Chicken Book. It deals more with commercial chicken production, but there are sections about backyard chicken keeping. There's in the introduction, and the technical part would apply to any chicken production. How much food they need, kind of housing they need. In rural areas, they're extremely important because they they're often encouraged. People are often encouraged to grow vegetable gardens to improve food security, which is fine. I mean, it's good to do, but people can't live off vegetables. And the chicken production is a long-standing. It's been over hundreds of generations. People have kept chickens, but they don't actually know how to improve the production. And you can improve the production with using very little money, just with having knowledge of managerial techniques. It's a source of high quality protein and obviously very important for rural people. But under the existing conditions, they don't. They hardly ever eat a chicken, and they almost never eat eggs. But with the proper training, they could well improve their production so that they could eat almost a chicken a week for a family, which is a huge improvement. And they would be able to eat eggs, but still keep enough eggs for reproducing the next generation. Estou a lançar manual de criação de galinhas na África Austral.